So we come back to the question, who won? How did Donald Trump fare? What difference, if any, do debates like these make? And who better to understand this than someone who has worked very closely with Donald Trump, former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci. I spoke to him earlier today. Anthony Scaramucci, welcome to WION.
Hey, nice to be here. Thank you.
You've served as the White House Communications Director and you'd understand his strategy. Was the idea to just make sure that Biden doesn't get to say what he wants to say?
Well, I think it was a twofold strategy. Interrupt the vice president as much as possible and then try to express some level of delegitimization of our electoral process. He spent the last 5 minutes of the debate basically telling lies to the American people about the electoral process. We don't have a lot of voter fraud as it relates to mail-in ballots, but he was trying to suggest that. And I think that's another strategy to either suppress the vote or to cause confusion about the accuracy of the outcome of that vote.
According to a report, 90% of the voters in America have already made up their mind on who they're going to vote for. Can these debates really influence those who've decided?
Well, last night's debate certainly is not going to move the needle, in my opinion. You are right. It is about 90% according to multiple polling sources. And just to contrast that with 2016, there was about 20% of the vote that was undecided at this time 4 years ago. But this is very different. You have a president in office. You have a record to look at. But you also have a situation where the president has been very polarizing. He has not expanded the tent of his base. And the great irony here is he is the Secretary Clinton of this race, meaning he is the more polarizing of the two candidates. But last night's debate, I think, was a stalemate, primarily because of what the president was doing. His grandstanding and his interrupting, I think, caused that debate to stall. And I think it was very frustrating for the people watching in terms of trying to evaluate the plans of the two candidates. Clearly, the president doesn't have a plan. Otherwise, he would have spent time on it last night.
Donald Trump evokes sharp responses. People either agree with him or do not agree with him, but there's never a dull moment when President Trump speaks. Would you say that communication is one of his strong suits?
Well, listen, there's no question about that. He's an entertainer, a reality television host, and he is when you're looking at President Trump, you're waiting for that verbal car crash. And so there's an expression in America called rubbernecking as cars slow down to look at other cars. The president's always about to verbally car crash, which causes everybody to pay attention to what he's saying. Even if the idioms that he's using are elementary school idioms or middle school idioms, he is an effective communicator, no question about that. But remember, people do not remember what you're saying, but they do remember how you make them feel. And I think last night was a disaster for the president. I think he made people feel that he had very little respect for them or the civility of the process.
As of today, Donald Trump is behind in most opinion polls, but we've seen opinion polls go horribly wrong, including what we saw in 2016. Which way do you think the wind is blowing this time?
Well, remember, those opinion polls in 2016 were not that wrong. I mean, he lost the popular vote by 3.5%. He won the Electoral College by about 78,000 votes in 3 states. So it was inside the margin of error. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for him to achieve those types of results again.
And those who track elections like to talk about vote share and so on, but what matters at the end of the day is who gets the office. And Donald Trump won in 2016. We'll have to see what happens this time. In July, you said that you want to see Trump get humiliated in this election.
Yeah.
Do you think Joe Biden is the man to secure a convincing win?
Well, I do believe that. But remember, this is going to be a referendum against President Trump. I mean, so this will be a repudiation of his words and his actions, the bellicosity of his rhetoric, the bullying, the misdirection, the mismanagement of the crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, and the decisions that he's made that has pushed the American economy effectively into a recession that's the steepest recession since the Great Depression. So this will be a repudiation, and I predict a humiliation. And Joe Biden will win. Will that margin be super wide? I don't know, but I think it's going to be wider than people think. This is very similar to the Carter-Reagan election in reverse. It'll look tight till the end, and then, of course, in the end, it broke for Mr. Reagan, and he won the presidency, and the incumbent was repudiated, and I think that's going to happen here.
Are you suggesting that Joe Biden is incidental and that if he wins, and you're saying he'll win not because he's Joe Biden, but because he's not Donald Trump?
Yes, I think that that's true. I think if you look at the modern era of the electoral process of repudiating a incumbent, it's always a referendum about the incumbent. It was a vote against Jimmy Carter. It was a vote against George Herbert Walker Bush in 1992. And I think this will be a vote against Ronald Reagan. Joe Biden is competent. The vice president is competent. He has a record to run on of competence and centrism. But I don't think he needs to do much more than he's doing right now. This is a self-implosion taking place by President Trump.
Anthony Scaramucci, thanks very much for being with us on WION.
Good questions. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Gravitas on WION's YouTube channel. If you want to stay up to date with what's happening around the world, then subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like and share. Thank you very much for watching WION. World is One.